Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about how the sex lives of college girls was never, ever gonna get a season 4, even if the writing was better and even if the ratings were good for season 3. I don't think it was ever gonna get it. Now, there is no article. Nobody has said anything. This is only my assumption, and I am assuming because of things I've observed with HBO Max, the WB, David Zaslav, some recent news about a Superman movie, and just the creative of the show in question. And so, as you all know, the sex lives of college students is completely over. The show ended after 3 seasons. They shopped it around to see if another network would pick them up. No network would pick them up. It is completely done. Now, I have talked about all 3 seasons of this show and done analysis videos here and there. And if you've ever watched those videos, then you know for a fact I am not a huge fan of this show. I have problems with this show. I feel the premise is good. I feel it could have went further than what it did, and I felt like it could have been a gold mine of a show, but the writing was just not there. It was not particularly that good. The creative team wasn't very creative. They came up with some really good scenarios and stuff like that, but they could not execute them very well. Then the next season will come and it will completely abandon what the cliffhanger had to do last season, and because they will wrap it up very quickly. Now, I am not here to go into detail about the creative team and the writing and the storylines and this and that. I've already made a video about that earlier this year. That's a lot longer. Go watch that. But I'm here to talk about how I feel that no matter what, even if season 3 was amazing, which it was not, but if it was amazing, it was never going to see the light of day of season 4. And that is because of something that's been going on with HBO Max and that of David Zaslav. Now, just a quick recap and everything. The writing team, I just felt like was abysmal. I just felt like there were things that was very creative here and there. They just did not know how to execute. Then, at the end of season 2, and as season 3 was getting started up, they're starting to think of stuff, Renee Rapp decided to leave, throwing a huge monkey wrench in their plans for season 3. They had to rework a whole bunch of stuff around and add 2 new characters to replace her instead of just adding 1 or keeping it as is, because they felt like they needed that extra oomph of a character to replace her. And they introduced 2 new characters that was a direct copy of her but just split in half in different personalities. And and I said this before, Renee Rapp better hope her music career takes off, because if it doesn't, this was a huge blunder on her part, because despite what people say, this show made her into a household name. Yes, she started Broadway before this, but not a lot of people watch Broadway or theater plays, so a lot of people didn't know who she was. Not until this show came out. Then people knew who she was because she was mostly everybody's favorite character. After this came Mean Girls. Ironically, because she was in Mean Girls, the theater, the Broadway production. And so, she got some recognition for that. Then, after that, that's it. She just went into music because she didn't want to come back to the show that, made her a household name. And so she's only had 2 acting projects in terms of screen debuts and stuff, and of course theater stuff. So it's not like Hollywood is exactly banging down her door. Plus she gets anxiety and stuff like that. But it's kind of and now she's not that reliable, because like she will quit a show as the next season is about to start like being thought up and everything. I mean, how the heck do you quit after the end of 2 seasons and you got another season that was already green lit? And the show ended on a cliffhanger, so they had to resolve what happened with her character. So she better hope, man, like that music career takes off. From what I've heard, it's not doing so well. But not only that, then there are the comments she makes. She is the person who desperately needs a PR team. When she does interviews, they just should super glue her mouth because she's very blunt. She says what's on her mind and she doesn't think. Like when she says that she forgets that straight people exist because she's like a lesbian and she was closeted for so many years and she dated a guy back in the day, but now she's like a lesbian. And it's like, I get it. Straight people treat the LGBT wrong, but two wrongs don't make a right. If a straight person was to say a gay person doesn't exist, the LGBT will be pissed off and everything. So to say that is just messed up. And she did ruffle some feathers by saying that. So that's on her. I went off on a little tangent. That still irks me when she's talking about straight people don't exist. I'm straight. I support the LGBT. I know they exist. Like, just because they treat you bad don't mean you gotta treat them badly back. And she's in her early 20s. She needs to learn fast. I just don't understand what's up with Renee Rapp. I mean, she needs PR training. She needs a manager to tell her to like zip it or something. I mean, on her song, she even dissed the show that made her famous and everything. Who does that crap? Either there was some drama behind the scenes or she's just doing this for like attention, which seems really desperate to diss the show you're on and then diss like straight people to gather attention so people can pay attention to her more for like her music to do good. And it could just like backfire and everything, like, cause sometimes people will create fake outrage just to like sell something. And that might be the case here, but other way it's just like ridiculous and everything. But, after going off that little tangent, with her leaving the show, it took a lot of the fan base with them. And many people have literally said on Twitter they stopped watching the moment she left the show, and she left after the second episode of the third season. And so a lot of people either like this show, like a lot, they think it's okay, or they just never heard of it, or they think it's woke because they see a bunch of like women and stuff. And that is the thing, that no matter what, this show was never gonna get a fourth season. I've only seen a few people, a handful on Twitter, talking about this show looks stupid, it looks woke, blah 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 blah, and all this other crap, right? And so it's mostly just a bunch of small-minded men. And so, like, who's never heard of this. And so they saw it got canceled and just decided to rail on it. Now, the reason why, despite, if let's say ratings was great in season 3, let's say people was really loving it, let's say the writing was good, the reason why I feel like it was never gonna get a season 4 is because of David the Devil Zaslav, this man right here. And see, the thing about David is that most people don't know who he is. He doesn't have social media. Nobody knows his political views or religious views and this and that. Nobody really knows what he likes. But there's been some like rumors that he likes a particular political person and he likes a certain news channel. And because of that, and because he now owns CNN, he is the reason why for the past few years, maybe 2 or 3, CNN has started to sound kind of odd. Especially Anderson Cooper, like saying things that people are very surprised that he would say. And it's all because of this man. Now, this man bought out HBO Max and combined it with the I think Discovery or something like that. And he's mostly known for doing reality shows. He's not used to taking care of scripted television shows and movies and this and that. And he really doesn't have a clue as to what the heck he is doing. It all started with Batgirl. Back when it was still the DCEU, they was gonna make a Batgirl movie. Now, you can't probably see this, but this version of Batgirl is half black. The actress is actually Afro-Latino, but they made her black and white for the movie. This is back when the WB was still going their progressive ways because there was a different government at that time. And so David Zaslav, being the person that he is and his alleged political views that have been rumored and stuff, when he heard the WB was gonna go in the direction of like Batgirl and Supergirl because Henry Cavill didn't want to come back or got fired, one, I can't remember which one, and Ben Affleck was done, who was Batman and Superman, they was gonna go in the direction of Batgirl and Supergirl, leading the way for the new era of movies and stuff. He came in and said, we ain't doing this crap. It's gonna be Batman, it's gonna be Batman, it's gonna be Superman, and blah 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 blah. And so as this movie was near completion, and I mean near completion, they only had like a small percentage left of finishing this movie. He decided, we're gonna cancel it and we're not even gonna show this movie. He said it's not watchable and everything. It's not very good. Nobody knows if this is true or not because the general public has not seen this movie. Most of the people who worked on it has not seen this movie because it is not complete. And then all of a sudden, strange things started happening in Hollywood. Michael Keaton, who plays Batman in Tim Burton movies, and Peter Safran, who now runs the DC division of Warner Bros. Along with that of James Gunn, came out and dissed this movie. Peter Safran said, it was unwatchable. It's like, hold up. What was so unwatchable about this movie? What was so horrible about it? But yet they praised these other movies that flopped just like a year after. Then Michael Keaton dissed this movie and said, well, they probably know what they're doing. If it wasn't that great, then they made the right decision. You starred in the movie, like, how do you know it was that bad? Like, you know what I'm saying? And we all know Michael Keaton only done these 2 Batman movies because of money. He really just didn't care and stuff like that. So I don't trust what Michael Keaton says. And as for Peter Safran, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And so the movie got completely scrapped. Now, the people who created this movie is the ones who created the 3rd Bad Boys movie. It was those 2 guys. And one of them, I think, was getting married at the time and found out that the movie got completely scrapped. That's a great wedding gift right there, like to surprise your director and on his wedding day and be like, hey, your movie's scrapped and everything. How low down is that? And so people have often wondered, since Batgirl got scrapped, was it really that bad, or were they really just saying that to get the money back? Because that's what happened. They got the money back from that movie, from like taxes and stuff. And then a trend in Hollywood started happening because of this man. He started scrapping other projects. 2 Looney Tune movies. Scooby-Doo, like a younger version of them, like a Halloween type movie. He scrapped that. All movies were near completion as well. And he just completely scrapped those just to get the money back. Then this man started to cancel and scrap a lot, and I mean a lot, of diverse television shows on his platform and took them off the streaming site. Other studios started to follow. They're like, hey, we can get the money back on our shows too. All right. So they started to scrap a lot of their projects as well and get the money back until the government stepped in and be like, hey, what are y'all doing? This is literally like burning down your business and then collecting the insurance and everything. So then that started to stop. But the damage was done. But the fact is, when you see a lot of those HBO Max shows that got canceled, a lot of them were diverse. They either had like shows that were like people of color as the lead, LGBT, women, you name it. And there was only a few, a handful, a teeny tiny handful that were predominantly white. And so a lot of people assume that David Zaslav probably just doesn't like diversity if the rumors are true about like his political views and stuff. And he started scrapping more stuff after a while. A lot of cartoons that are supposed to be on HBO Max because they are part of WB property and stuff. Looney Tunes, the new Batman cartoon that was supposed to come out. Pretty much everything that was on Boomerang just he just gutted like that entire library and everything, and they had to go other places. The Batman show went to that of Amazon. They paid for that. A company called Ketchup saved the Looney Tunes movie and stuff. And then he started selling off a bunch of his DC shows and movies to Tubi, so that Tubi can show it for free. So of course they pay to give him money and stuff. Same with Amazon for that Batman cartoon, because the WB and HBO Max on them are bleeding money very bad because of the DCEU. And so diversity, I believe, has a factor in why this show was never going to get renewed. Because, other than just writing and stuff like that, that's another major factor. But he was looking for an excuse, any excuse he can find, because he can no longer just like cancel a show and then just scrap it completely and take it off the platform. So he had to look for an excuse, and the lower ratings and the bad writing was one of those. However, something recently just happened. He made an interesting statement, allegedly. Oh, before I get into the statement, let me bring this up. So when he scrapped Batgirl, he said it was unwatchable, it was like bad, blah, 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 blah. But then he said that Flash and Black Adam were billion-dollar movies and blockbuster movies at that. But those two movies flopped. He saw two male leads and assumed that it was going to be the biggest blockbuster movie in history, and they both flopped big time. This was enough for him to hire Peter Safran and James Gunn. Now, it's been rumored, this is a rumor that came out today, that when DCEU was in bad shape, he was going to look to The Rock to save the DC universe and everything. But then Black Adam flopped, and he decided not to go in that direction. Then he hired Peter Safran and James Gunn. Now, for the longest time, they was going to make a Black Superman movie because of some controversy that happened a couple of years ago. I'll make a completely different video on that. I just want to give the gist right now. And the gist is that I knew for a fact this was never going to get made. It's a Black Superman movie. And with the way the politics has shifted, with the way they have to roll back on DEI, with the way like white guys are complaining online about diverse content and everything being woke, I knew this movie was never going to get made. But, James Gunn's all like, oh, it's still in development, blah, 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 and, and it's still a priority, blah, 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 blah. I didn't believe that, not one bit. I did not believe that, not one bit. He's not going to want another Superman competing with his Superman movie that he wrote and directed and just came out like today or something like that, or yesterday. Oh, it came out today. I can't remember which one it is. And so I knew this was never going to get made. But there's a rumor that David Zaslav was not happy with this movie. The rumor is that he tried to protect the movie script from being too woke, because this movie was supposed to be taking place during the civil rights movement. And so if this is true, and David Zaslav felt like he had to protect this movie from being too woke and everything, that tells you he already had that mindset in his head. The fact that that was a factor tells you that he was never going to renew. Well, first, he was never going to make that movie. And two, he was never going to renew the college show, because the college show is very progressive. And the Batman cartoon that Amazon Prime had to buy from that of, like, HBO Max, it's very diverse. They race bent a lot of their characters and even made one of the, oh, and I think those two always been, yeah, okay, those two always been lesbians in the comics. But yeah, they race bent like a lot of characters. And so it makes you wonder if he got a whiff of that and be like, they gotta get rid of this. A show about women, Indian women, black, white, Jewish, the LGBT. Heck, on the third season, this one person who used to be a guy in season 1 and 2 is now a woman. They're transgender now, like in real life. And they had to add that into the show. So this show was very, very woke, if you will, progressive and everything like that. And with the way everything is going, the way David Zaslav is acting, I knew that this was going to be a factor in the show not getting renewed for a 4th season. But also, of course, the writing and stuff like that. Because like I said before, the writing was also a major factor. But he was looking for an excuse to get rid of this show and stuff. And I knew this show was never going to stand a chance, because a lot of the shows that he just canceled was like Pretty Little Liars, another progressive show, the new Gossip Girl, progressive, and a bunch of other stuff I've never heard of. Also, The Flight Attendant, a female-led show and everything, with Kaylee Cuoco and everything. It's just like he'll either just straight up scrap it, or he'll look for an excuse like, oh, what? Ratings are low. Well, hell, let me cancel this. And everything. And so, like, yeah. This show was never going to get renewed. Like, when I saw this article today about him allegedly saying that the Black Superman movie was too woke because of the civil rights movement and stuff, I knew. I knew that this had to be one reason why the college show got canceled and stuff. Because back when I had HBO Max, maybe a couple of weeks ago, I've noticed a lot more of their newer shows are skewed towards male and everything. They're more males are the main cast members. There's not much diversity in it. It's very few. There is a change going on in HBO Max. And so a show like the Sex Lives of College Girls was never gonna exist in that. And that's probably what happened with the Sex Lives of College Girls. He's probably never paid attention to that show on his platform. And then once he saw ratings were low and saw how diverse that cast was, he was probably like, no, get rid of this and stuff. Because this man has gotten rid of so many diverse projects and stuff. But yeah, but that's not the only reason why that show got canceled, in my opinion. Like I said before, bad writing. Plain and simple. That's why no other platform picked it up. See, this person on Twitter agrees with me. However, I agree with everything they're saying except for the inclusion part. So what? The world has diversity. The world has people of color. The world has people in wheelchairs. The world has people of the LGBT and everything. And, so this person's just one of those type people. But I do agree with everything they say. The show did get worse as it kept going on and everything. The characters were believable to a certain degree. However, I will say about the inclusion thing, even I said in season 1, the group of female LGBT characters in that little group they had, they did not feel real at all. They felt like extreme versions of actual real people and stuff. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.